Some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
You wanted the best, you got the best. From my home studio on Long Island, New York, welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto. Let's talk about Skid Row. Well, it has officially been a whole year since Skid Row last played a show. And as you likely remember, they did a limited amount of shows with Lizzie Hale of Halestorm, when Eric Gronwell called it quits after only 2 short years in the band. Lizzie only did 4 shows to be exact, but that was to be expected, quite honestly, with her having her own successful band, Halestorm, that she has full control over. She's a fan of Skid Row, was honored to fill in, and did a killer job, I have to say, while also looking smoking hot. And that was definitely a change of pace for Skid Row. But what's next? Skid Row has not had a charting album in 30 years, but they've still managed to be a successful touring band regardless of lineup changes. That's how Dave the Snake Sabo, Rachel Bolan, and Scotty Hill, the 3 guys remaining from the classic lineup, have managed to make a living long after the height of their fame. Really, the strange part in all of this is that as of now, 2025 is the first year the band has been entirely inactive in 25 years. Even during the pandemic, those guys managed to squeeze in a few shows. To give some quick background that many of you likely already know, Skid Row disbanded only 1 year following their 3rd album, Subhuman Race. Subhuman Race remains a fan favorite, but was considered a commercial flop. 4 years prior to this time, Slave to the Grind debuted at #1 on Billboard, a landmark, and considered the heaviest album at that time to do so. As for Subhuman Race, it peaked at only 35 and had no hit singles to speak of. I remember an interview with Eddie Trunk not too far back where Sebastian Bach voiced his frustration with the album. He talked about Bob Rock producing it and that his mind seemed to be elsewhere. Bob was apparently going on about how he was working with this all-female alternative rock band out of Chicago at the time called Veruca Salt. That's great, but what about Dr. Feelgood, dude? That's what we want this album to be like, Sebastian Bach replied. I'm paraphrasing here, but it seems like Bob knew the writing was on the wall. Skid Row didn't, unfortunately, and just like Motley Crue, Dokken, and all their contemporaries of the time pretty much, by 1995, they were considered old news, and no matter what they released, it was bound to get ignored. Apparently, an argument would ensue the following year between Bach and Bolan about Skid Row opening for a newly reunited Kiss, which Bach was allegedly pushing for, and other members felt they were too big to do. Both parties have recalled very different sides of this story, though, which we'll get into in just a bit. But whatever the case may be, Bach was pushed out, and 30 years later, has never performed with Skid Row again. Bach would go solo, and the rest of the members would go on a brief hiatus for 3 years. They'd reemerge in 1999, but along with Bach, drummer Rob Affuso would be gone and replaced by Charlie Mills. A number of drummers would replace Charlie since, including Phil Varone, who you may remember from Saigon Kick, as well as VH1 Sex Rehab, and currently that position is filled by Rob Hammersmith. On vocals would be Johnny Solinger, then Tony Harnell, then ZP from Dragon Force, and then Eric Gronwell. Johnny Solinger would also pass away, unfortunately, in recent years. But no matter who was on vocals, the rallying cry of the fans has always remained the same. Bring back Bach! And despite Sebastian Bach having a pretty successful solo career, drawing about comparable shows to Skid Row as someone who's seen both acts a number of times, he's been pretty consistently open to the idea. Skid Row, however, has not. If there were any instance that I think would have made for perfect timing to let bygones be bygones, it would have been when Guns N' Roses reunited in 2016. Openers for that stadium tour were Lenny Kravitz and Alice in Chains, depending on dates. But let's be honest, what the die-hard GNR crowd would have really went nuts over would have been a reunited Skid Row opening up those shows. But alas, it didn't happen. After Eric left last year, Sebastian would once again insist in interviews he was more than open to coming back. Speaking with Eddie Trunk last year, he'd say, "I found out something at the very last Kiss show that I did not know before the very last Kiss show, and it's a major piece of miscommunication. And I need to communicate with those guys because there's been something that happened that is not accurate. I can't tell you what it is, but the whole narrative of they don't like me and I'm too crazy is complete bullshit. It's not true. There's been attempts to get us going again. I can just tell the world that there's a good chance that'll happen because there's no fucking reason not to. Because right now, why it hasn't happened is a miscommunication. That's all I can say. There's a miscommunication. That's all I can tell you. I need to write a thoughtful email clearing up a miscommunication, but I have to make sure it's the perfect fucking email and I don't say anything wrong or make any jokes. I just don't have the energy to do that right now, but I know I need to do that. I've just got a lot on my plate right now." Well, that was said 1 year ago, and the notion of them reuniting has been completely one-sided because as for interviews with Skid Row members, whenever the question's been posed, it's consistently been the same. Absolutely not. The thing is this. When it comes to Sebastian Bach, there's a lot of positives to speak on, but also a lot of major issues anyone can clearly see as well. Starting with the positives, Sebastian is still an absolute beast on vocals. He put out, in my opinion, the greatest album of 2024 with Child Within the Man. Hold On to the Dream is the best metal song I've heard in ages, and it's in constant rotation for me. The negatives? As fun as the guy seems, he also seems like a mess, let's be honest. If you remember VH1 Supergroup, he would be an absolute nuisance at times for the other guys to deal with. But more recently, some of his social media posts have been concerning, to put it mildly. After the re-election of Donald Trump, he'd write on X, and I'm quoting directly here, "What the fuck is wrong with you people? This place sucks now. I don't want to be here anymore." Then he also tweeted out, also a direct quote, "Fuck America." My friend Anthony Bryant, the hair metal guru, as many of you know him as here on YouTube, and a US combat vet, did a response to Bach on this, and I'd suggest you check it out. I mean, I know where Bach stands politically, and I'm not one of those shut up and play type guys. We all have a right to voice our opinions, and things are more polarizing than ever. But fuck America? Come on, Bach. Then another time, not long after this, and I guess after a disagreement with his wife, he tweeted out his wedding ring off, and this very graphic picture of his bulge. I guess this public blow-up with his wife was resolved, judging by his tweets that followed, but who wants to deal with a guy that brings all this drama to the table? I'm not going to let the other guys get off scot-free in this regard either, though. Skid Row has now been through 4 different singers since the firing of Bach, and that's not counting Lizzie Hale or any of the other temporary fill-ins. The most recent of which, Eric Gronwell, quit in only 2 years, and under very questionable circumstances. One of the main issues cited was his very real health issues and how the touring schedule impacted him with that. But here's what's odd. He then signed up for a pretty vigorous touring schedule singing with UFO's Michael Schenker. How about drummers? Skid Row has gone through 5 of those since Rob Affuso's departure. And although Rob is the only guy on speaking terms with everyone, according to interviews, he doesn't seem to be eager to rejoin or anything. So maybe those guys are hard to work with as well. I think that's a fair assessment. Do it for the fans. Do it one last time.
Do it for Ron Konkama.
Regardless of all the crying out, the answer seems to be a definitive no.
How about no?
It makes you wonder, though, how much money would a reunited Skid Row bring in anyway? For one, if they brought back Bach, I also think Bach would insist on bringing back Rob Affuso, who he's remained very tight with and still performs with on occasion to this day. Stadiums? I don't think so, truthfully. Not as a headliner. Arenas? Not unless there was a solid co-headliner as the bill. Maybe the current lineup of Pantera. I could see that. Probably some bigger amphitheaters, though, and a few major festival bills. Every passing year, though, I think those offers will get smaller and smaller by this point with an aging fan base. They all still have the chops for sure, and it would make for a killer show. No matter what though, here's the bottom line, guys. It's not happening. And you have to respect that to some degree. In a world now where bands reunite all the time for the almighty dollar on separate tour buses and don't say a word until the moment they hit the stage, I can understand sticking by your guns for the sake of your own integrity and mental health. We only get one life. And if the guys in Skid Row are able to support themselves still, as is Bach, maybe it's better to just spend some time with the people you genuinely love being around. I could be wrong though, right? Axl Rose famously said, "Not in this lifetime," and then 4 years later, it happened. But the clock is ticking. We'll see what the future holds for Skid Row. Fans patiently await them getting back on the road and the announcement of a new singer. Today, as I'm recording this video, they put up a new post, and it's not announcing a tour, but a vinyl pressing of their 2006 album, Revolutions Per Minute, with the late Johnny Solinger. Unless you're a Skid Row absolute diehard, I don't think anyone cares about this era of the band. If they were in any way mending fences with the original lineup behind the scenes, I don't think they'd really care about celebrating this lineup that not many people really even paid much attention to. As for Sebastian Bach, crazy erratic tweets aside, the guy looks to be having an absolute blast every time he's on stage. Case in point, recently getting up with Faster Pussycat for one of the last shows ever at Las Vegas's Counts Vamped. Look at the guy. He's having the time of his life up there. What do you guys think? Am I wrong? I think it's kind of hopeless at this point. I don't think we're going to see a reunited Skid Row, but let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, I want to let you all know, little bit of a format change here on Ian Scotto Rocks. If you've been a subscriber to the channel, which I hope you all do subscribe, I was doing a lot of rock from all eras, current rock news and that type of thing. And the videos that really caught on and that you guys loved were consistently 80s rock, hair metal, Kiss. It was all in that vein, right? If you stack my videos by the most popular in terms of views, that was all of them. So that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I want to be a man of the people, and that's what you guys demand. And your wish is my command in that sense. We're going to continue to do great deep dives like this. So if you like this, you definitely got to subscribe because there's a whole lot more coming. Be sure to like the video, leave a comment, check out the merch store in the link below, and also check out this video right here next to my head if you want to binge watch some more great content from here on Ian Scotto Rocks. We're not going anywhere.